So this piece here is a triptych icon.
Triptych?
Triptych meaning 3 panels.
Okay.
So we have 3 pieces. If it had 2 panels, it'd be called a diptych. If it had 4, it'd be a quadriptych. So quad meaning 4. This one is triptych. And it's an icon that's from Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Christian tradition uses a lot of beautiful icons like these that you see. And they're made on wood here, painted in a tempera paint on panel. And the style you see here is one of my favorites. This is from 17th century, so the 1600s thereabouts, and it's called the early Gondarine style. There's a place in Ethiopia called Gondar, and so this style came out of there, and you can see that it's characterized by these colored backgrounds, so the red behind them, the green, and then also the very stylized and fluid lines that you see on their drapery.
It's almost like a maze.
Yeah, in a way. But you get these wonderful patterns here, and the lines on all of their clothing. That's part of the early Gondarine style. And then other neat things about this, you see the beautiful almond eyes that they have. That's very indicative of Ethiopian style and a part of their tradition, and that's what people look like.
And who are the characters? I recognize some of the characters. Why don't you give us kind of a tour?
Okay. The main one you see here, this is Mary. So this is the mother of Jesus, and Jesus is sitting there on her lap in a very normal, you'd see Mary and Jesus in that kind of composition before. She's flanked by the 2 archangels, Gabriel and Michael. This is usually the dominant figure because Mary is highly venerated in the Ethiopian tradition. She even has her own book dedicated to her, The Miracles of Mary. So she's very, very important. So that's a prominent one. And then you have the crucifixion scene over here. You also have St. George and the Dragon down here. This one's also very common to see on icons and paintings.
St. George, where is he from?
It's a common story that comes out of England, but it filters down to Ethiopia, and it's also a big part of Bavaria as well, St. George. So he gets around.
He gets around and he influenced their art in Ethiopia.
That's interesting. Yeah. And then this one here is called the Anastasis, or this is where Jesus resurrected is pulling Adam and Eve out of purgatory.
The 2 nude figures, out of
Adam
purgatory.
And Eve, and so sometimes you see this one where his hands are raised in victory like that, and they're hanging onto his garment as he's lifting them up.
Look at that. Can you see that now?
Yeah. And then other times you'll see that he's reaching down to pull Adam up by the hand, and then Eve kind of trails behind. So you see both of those things happening in this particular scene.
And who's below Adam and Eve?
This is Mary and Jesus as well.
Okay.
Kind of a reunited. And then you see various disciples and saints, and oftentimes you'll see a patron, whoever commissioned this work or commissioned other works in the church, perhaps you'll see that person laying prostrate or like down below one of these as a sign of humility or something.
Yeah, so why would someone produce something like this?
Well, in the Orthodox tradition, icons are very important for devotion. And they know the stories, they know the scenes, so it's not like we would see in other European traditions, for example, where the pictures tell us the story and we teach through that to a largely illiterate population, for example. This is, they know the stories, so this is just devotional. They see it, they worship through these pictures because they remind them of what happened.
So this might be in one of their sanctuaries?
Okay. Yeah, oftentimes ones like these are in the actual worship place. Sometimes you get small pendant icons, they're called. They're about this big, and they hang from a twine or a string around the neck, and those are used for processionals as you're walking down through the city with crosses and things like that. So, but something like this would be seen in the church itself.
And what is this paint made of?
It's a tempera paint. It's usually sometimes mixed with an egg wash, but it's largely water-based. But what's amazing about these is the colors that remain so vibrant for so long.
So you say from 1600s?
Yes, 1600s, yes. And heavily used, and yet it still looks so wonderful. This one, I don't see any examples of this, but there's a fun story regarding the Ethiopian painting. I mentioned their eyes before.
Yeah.
If you notice, all of the eyes you see both eyes, and they're straight on and toward you. That means everybody in this picture is good. You can see all of their eyes. If you see somebody in profile and you only see one eye, that means they're hiding part of themselves. And so they're considered evil because they're scheming and they're not showing you everything. That concept of eyes are the window to the soul is a really big part of it. So sometimes, occasionally, you'll see in manuscripts, especially like in the Miracles of Mary or in the Gospels of John or something like that, you'll see these figures that are half turned. Judas is usually half turned, and you only see part of him.
And it helps
only
you
one
as a
eye.
curator to go, okay, I know who that character can't be Jesus.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
gotta be
So
somebody
it
else.
identifies them for us, and we can see who they are.
That's really interesting.